Hi everyone, I don't do intros because intros are lame. Today I'm going to be talking about my most disappointing reads of 2019. So a lot of the books on this list are really popular ones. This is also kind of an unpopular opinion video, but I just can't help the way I feel about some of these books, so please don't murder me in the comments, and let's just get into it. So the first book I read this year that was pretty disappointing for me was Butter by Erin Jade Lange. I found this book at, I think it was Salvation Army or something, like a Goodwill or something like that, and in the cover flap it said that the boy was going to eat himself to death, and I don't know if it's just a me thing, but when I read that I thought he was like going to like eat like his body, like cannibalism, and I was like, ooh, that's so weird to me. Ooh, that's so exciting, which is like a really weird thing to say about that topic, but like I've never read a book about cannibalism, so I was like, cannibalism? Let's go! But unfortunately, that is not what the cover flap meant by eat himself to death. It meant that he was going to eat a lot of food until he died. He ended up deciding to do this because he was going to eat like strawberries or something and he was allergic to that, and that's how it was like going to kill him. But he was going to eat like other things before that. But like the book itself, like after I found out that it wasn't going to be about cannibalism, I just really wanted to DNF it so bad. I didn't because I don't really like DNFing books. I thought maybe it might end happier, but honestly the whole story just fell flat for me. It's just about this character named Butter who is overweight, and so he's depressed about that. He doesn't have many friends, and basically the whole book is just him being sorry for himself because he's overweight. So like the whole book was just not very good in my opinion, so yeah, that's why it's on this list. The next book that I didn't really like this year, and please, please, please do not murder me in the comments, is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I had to read this one for senior English class last school year, and I absolutely hated it. It just, I know that it's a classic, but none of the characters felt real. All of their motivations felt forced. Like that part where they switch cars and drive to the city, like what is the point of that? Why would they switch cars if not to help the plot progress? Like that's the only reason that things happen at the end of it. If you haven't read it, I'm not going to spoil. But the only reason that things happen at the end of it is because they switched cars, and like there was no other reason for them to switch cars except for it being a plot device. And don't even get me started on the movie about, like, the movie for this book is so bad. We watched parts of it in English, and like, first of all, I love Tobey Maguire, but why did they cast Tobey Maguire as the main role? I don't like it. It makes no sense to me. No, it was just not good. And then they had anachronistic music throughout the movie. Like they had music that you would hear in today's society taking place in the 1920s, which makes absolutely no sense. If you're gonna make a movie about this, like do it right, you know? Anyway, I just really didn't like this book, and I'm sorry for going on a bit of a rant, but it didn't do it for me, and I typically don't really like classics that much, so it probably was off to a bad start in the first place, but I could have overlooked the fact that I don't like classics, and I could have given it like a 2 or 3 stars if it weren't for the characters' motivations they weren't there. They made no sense. And so yeah, that's why I gave it 1 star, and I'm really sorry if you guys love this book. I couldn't do it. It just The next book that I read this year that I didn't like also is a very popular book, so yeah, please don't come for me, is Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. It's not that I hated this book. I think I gave it like 2.5 or 3 stars. Like I didn't give it a 1-star rating. It just didn't click with me. Everybody was raving about it, so I was like, ooh, it sounds good. And it had college characters, which I was really excited about because it's really hard to find college characters in young adult books. So I was really excited about that. And it took place in the United Kingdom, which was also really exciting. But I don't know, just the whole story just didn't get there with me. I think it may have been because I was reading it on audio, and the narrator had a really thick British accent, so some of the times I had a hard time understanding what she was saying. But overall, it just didn't have an impact with me. Like, I was like, okay, these are characters, this is plot, that's what's happening, alright, cool. Like, I didn't care about what was happening, so I didn't really like it that much, unfortunately, which sucks because everybody loved this book, and I just didn't, and I feel really bad because even now, people still talk about it, and they're like, oh, I love this book, and I'm like, I can't relate. The next book that was disappointing for me this year was Nick and June Were Here by Shalonda Stanley. This book I found at the library and they had a cute cover, so I was like, ooh, that sounds cute, and I read the synopsis. It told in the synopsis, it said that June has schizophrenia. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting, I haven't read a book about schizophrenia yet. So I was really excited for it, and so I was reading the book. And everything that the synopsis said would happen, happened in the first 200 pages. It didn't actually start getting to stuff that we didn't know was already going to happen because of the synopsis until the last 100 to 50 pages. It really irritated me, and I know that authors aren't allowed to write the synopsis for their books, but it just really bothered me because if they spent all this time with June and being like, June has these symptoms, maybe she should go get help. We don't know what's wrong with her. And then she finally goes and gets diagnosed with schizophrenia in 150 pages in. And I'm like, we already knew she had schizophrenia because of the synopsis. Don't lead all up to this thing happening, this big turning moment in the book, if you're gonna tell us on the synopsis. It just irritated me so much, and this is one of the reasons why I don't like to read synopses before I go into books, because of things like this. Okay, I'm sorry about another rant. This is gonna be a really heated video. And then also the things that were happening with Nick, we also knew about on the cover flap, things that were happening throughout the book. We just knew basically everything until the last 50 pages, and it was really unfortunate. And even the things that did happen, even though we knew they were gonna happen, they weren't very interesting to me. So that's also another reason why I didn't like it. Okay, I have another really popular book here that people love and adore, and I just didn't really like it. Please don't come for me. That book is Scythe by Neil Shusterman. I read this book because Bookmarked did it as a book of the month in April or something, I want to say. And they all loved it. I started it physically reading it. And I was like, okay, this is kind of an interesting plot. There's some interesting things going on. We have some cool characters, a cool society. And it all had it was all going really good. The first thing that made me not like it is actually kind of funny. I was reading it in physical, and there was a grammar mistake, or it was actually a punctuation mistake. There was I don't even remember. There was a comma in the middle of a word. How do you miss that? It really bothered me. And I know most people can just move past that, but I'm a really big grammar, spelling, syntax person, and that really, really irritated me. And so then from then I'm like, I know that's a bad reason, but there were other reasons too. So I just kept reading, and honestly I was getting kind of bored. It is a fantasy, so fantasies don't really click with me that well. So I decided, because I was getting bored, I would read it on audio. So I finished the book on audio, and I had the physical book. I was also reading the physical book with the audio book, but it was just helping me get through it a little bit faster. And I was visiting my boyfriend, because this was last year when we lived in different cities. I was visiting him, and I was sitting on his bed and listening to the audiobook, and the book was sitting open on the bed, but I wasn't actually looking at it. I was kind of just listening. And I glanced over at the book, and I saw a spelling error from from all the way over there. And I was like, okay, that's 2. I can't do this. So anyway, not only were the spelling errors a big issue for me, but the book itself, the plot, I just lost interest in it. I don't even remember what happened at the end because it just wasn't memorable for me. I know everybody raves about it and they say that Thunderhead is amazing. And I'm kind of interested in knowing, but at the same time, I don't really want to read the sequel, unfortunately. I think I gave it 3 stars or something. It wasn't terrible, but it definitely was disappointing, to say the least. The next book on this list is Educated by Tara Westover. I read this book over the summer because on my registration day for college, they gave everybody this book and were like, we recommend that you read this before coming in. Like, it wasn't required, but like I got a free book, so I'm like, hey, why not? I figured it was going to be about college, but most of it ended up being about Tara's family and how messed up they are and how messed up her home life was. And it really wasn't that much about college. And it kind of bothered me because it's called Educated. And like, if your whole book is based around you getting an education, maybe you should talk about how you got your education a bit more. Honestly, yeah, that's basically the reason why it's on this list, is because I thought it was going to be about college and like help me prepare for college, but it was really just about her home life and her family and how messed up they are. Which, I mean, it's still in its own sense a good thing to write a memoir about, but it wasn't what I was expecting, so that's why it's on this list. I still gave it like a 3 stars. It's still a good book, but it wasn't what I was expecting. So yeah, that's why it's here. And the final book that fell flat for me this year was No Such Person by Caroline B. Cooney. I do have a copy of this book. It is just at home because I wanted to get it off this shelf so I could have more space. I am probably going to unhaul it sometime whenever I have enough books to do an unhaul video. I'll unhaul it. It is another one of those, they put too much on the synopsis that happened in the book. Kind of like with what happened with Nick and June Were Here. Everything that happened in the book, we knew it was going to happen because of the synopsis. And it didn't even get interesting until the last 50 pages when you find out who, like, the real killer was and, like, the big climax. That part was okay, but other than that, it was really boring and nothing happened throughout the whole book. Like, it happened in, like, a 3-day period and barely anything happened except for the beginning murder that we already knew about, which didn't know how it happened. And they didn't really do a good job of explaining it either until the very end when the killer explains how he did it. And like, I don't know. I was just really excited about it because it's Caroline B. Cooney, but it just didn't do it for me, unfortunately. I don't hold anything against Caroline B. Cooney because of it. Like, I still love her books and stuff, so it just unfortunately is one of her books that I didn't like so much. So there you guys go. Those are all the books that I read in 2019 that were disappointing, unfortunately. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to give it a like and subscribe down below and hit that bell icon to make sure you get notified every time I post. I post videos on every Friday at 5 p.m. Central Time, so you'll expect to see more from me soon. Also, you can check out my social media if you would like. My bookstagram is butterflies on my bookshelf with periods in between the words, and I also now have a book Twitter, yay! So you can also follow me on Twitter now. It's the same username as my Instagram, just on Twitter. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye! I've never read a book about cannibal. Like, everything that happened in the synopsis, we knew was going to happen. Wait, no, I said that wrong.